Good evening and welcome. We're going to call to order the regular meeting for the Akron Public Schools Board of Education for March 12th, 2020 to order. Roll call, please.
Dr. Akbar.
Here.
Mr. Alexander.
Present.
Ms. Autry.
Here.
Mr. Bravo.
Here.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Mrs. Mansfield.
Here.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Here.
And if you could all stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. We will begin by entertaining some community and school reflections if there are any.
All right, I'll start. I went to the Mental Health and Social Emotional Learning Summit in Columbus, and it was a wealth of information, not only to tell what some of the issues are, but to provide effective solutions. And I would like to give a shout out to the Bridges Learning Center, the principal, Stephanie Davis, Shannon May, the art therapist, Sarah Collane, the PE teacher, Brian Hill, the school psychologist, Chrissy Elgin, the school counselor, and Edie Steiner, for everything they do and for highlighting our kids and the district because they were presenters at that conference. And also Edie Steiner was named Woman of the Year from the Women's History Project for Innovation. So congratulations to her and to all of them for everything that they do. Keeping up with the Winter Concert Series, the middle school choirs at Kenmore Garfield, and the Middle School Jazz Festival at Bookdale, and a shout out to Don Wilson, the Fine Arts Learning Specialist. I also attended the Portage Path Black History Month program, and so I'd like to congratulate Mrs. Summers, the principal, Mrs. Childers, the music teachers, and of course the kids for a wonderful job. And I'm sure other people will talk about the Academies of Nashville studies, so I will stop there.
Great, thank you.
I'll go.
Ms. Autry?
So since we last met, I visited Mason and Cyberlink Community Learning Centers. So I've actually visited all the schools in my cluster so far. And just generally speaking, especially at the elementary level, it was just really nice to see all the young people. They were really engaged. They seemed to like their teachers a lot. And also, it really makes me appreciate, some of the services that they benefit from, particularly in the East Cluster. The counselors, the family liaisons, Project Rise, the family resource centers. So those students really benefit a lot from those services. I'm looking forward into diving a little bit deeper into the success and wellness funds. I know we'll be doing that in Finance Committee, just to ensure that we continue making sure those schools are supported in that manner. And I'm also just interested as well with the other school board members as you complete your school visits, just what your reflections are, just generally speaking. I know we make policies at this level, and we just want to make sure what we're seeing at the ground level, is aligned up. So, bravo.
Very good, thank you. Dr. Hall, and then...
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I'll start by echoing what Diana said. I've completed all the school visits in my cluster as well, Kenmore Garfield. So I want to start those round 2 visits now. But to Ms. Autry's point, it's we've gotten a lot of great feedback in the schools and very candid feedback, and so feeling sort of very positive about the level and amount of rapport that we've been able to establish, I think, as new board members through those visits. So finished at Sam, Salem, Reimer, Boris last week, and also was at Mason as well. That's a great school too, Ms. Autry. They had their art and math. I'm sorry, their art and ice cream social there as well. So I did buy a couple pieces of art. I got outbid on a couple pieces. But got a few pieces of art, and so I intend to bring them. I actually meant to bring them for this board meeting so that way you could all be jealous of my finds. But I will be bringing those to the next board meeting. You'll see my pieces of art, just so you know. Okay. Also, like Ms. McKittrick, I was at the middle school choirs and arounds, and that was when we were talking about like how hot it was in the building. So walked in, why does everybody have red faces in here?
192 degrees, as I recall.
That's what it felt like. Yes. But it was an absolutely lovely experience. One of the reasons why I so enjoy attending a lot of the artistic events is because you see the passion that the students, the student artists as well as those who are singing, you see it on their face. It's on display. So I'm always always awed by that. When you watch these students give their all. So. And then as far as Nashville, yes, we were also in Nashville. But I'm going to defer because, again, I've talked long enough, so I'm going to let somebody else sort of talk more about Nashville.
Mr. Alexander?
Oh, I didn't go to Nashville this time, so I can't defer to me. I was going to defer to someone else. But I did go to the bands and rounds as well at Higher for the middle school, and it was really good. Our president's son was there playing and was enjoying himself as well. But the kids did a very, very good job, and the directors of the schools, they did a very good job with the kids. And so I'm always happy to see that the kids enjoying themselves and learning at the same time. And yes, and do we need to give a shout out to Don Wilson and Ms. Gijic, who has been there all the time with Ms. Wilson to make sure they have things going well. So thank you both.
Ms. Mansfield and then Dr. Akbar.
So I'm going to bring my art as well, Mr. Hall, and we'll see. I wonder if you outbid me on some of mine, because there are a few I didn't get that I'm wondering about, so we might have to, maybe we'll let some of them hang at your house for a while and some of them hang at my house for a while. Great job at Mason, as always. It's one of my favorite things of the year. It's a fantastic family engagement event, as well as math and art. So, wow, lots of things all wrapped up into one. Many of us got to attend the IB presentation at the Instructional Policy Committee meeting was that just last week? I guess maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I just am so lost. It's been crazy. I wanted to give a shout out to the students who presented to us, as well as to the staff who was eager and prepared to meet challenges that those IB students presented. And wow, were they impressive or what? They were just an amazing
Phenomenal.
Bunch of students who had done research. They were ready for almost all Dr. Hall's questions. And I'm sure they all went home and got ready just in case. So he was a good challenge to them. So that was great. A couple other things that were really enjoyable the last few weeks. The Women's History Project through the and luncheon that I know Ms. McKittrick and Dr. Hall attended as well. It was nice to see Betty Dalton, who is a former school board member, honored posthumously for all of her work in the community. I just wanted to give a shout out because I know she sat in your chair, Patrick, and just to honor her. Read Across America has taken place in the last few weeks. I got the pleasure of being at Case in a 5th grade classroom. They asked fantastic questions. You could see that IB communication and things coming through really strong. Not only did they listen to my story, but then they wanted to know about the board. They wanted to know about Dr. James. They wanted to know what we were doing about COVID-19. I mean, literally asked the question that way, and how are we preparing? It wasn't, coronavirus. It wasn't that virus. It was, to the letter, asking questions about that. So shout out to Miss Essex class because they were fantastic. Today I was at Leggett and walked around with Mr. Blondheim. He's great. I got to know him when he was in one of the outlet schools, and he's a fantastic principal. Posted some great statistics about Leggett on my Facebook, so you can look at that. East High Alumni Association held a fantastic event where they raised money for our students. Mr. Bravo and I were there for that. And then Firestone Athletics folks held a fundraiser, and Mr. Alexander and I were there for that. And I also got to go to Jennings and walk around alma mater there you were at Roswell Kent, yes? So for Mr. Alexander and I wasn't sure, didn't want to leave you out, got to walk around and see some fantastic learning. Was invited into Miss Walsh's class. She's a math teacher, and She sent an announcement over the loudspeaker to have me come directly to her classroom. So they were waiting for me and ready to engage in learning. So just been a fantastic and very busy 2 weeks. We're going to miss the kiddos and getting to go see them. So, and I know their teachers will as well, and that they'll miss the teachers as we go forward in the next couple of weeks. So, good stuff.
Thank you. Dr. Akbar?
Great. So, I won't list everything. There's been a lot. I'll focus most of my comments on the Nashville trip. But before I do that, I also went to Portage Path Black History Month program. They sung one of my favorite songs in the country of all time, actually, Man in the Mirror, and they did a really good job. So I just want to say kudos to them for that. I think that was the third graders. I don't really remember, but they did a really good job there. I also got a chance to, I'm going to just call it the best painting I've ever done in my life. I've never been able to draw in between the lines or color in between the lines since kindergarten. And Firestone Park allowed me to draw on their walls, so thank you very much. I was able to paint some signs there, and they're livening up their school. The painting is looking very good there. In Nashville, we spent the last 3 days. I feel like I'm still a little warped from that trip, as we just got back or landed at like 9:30 last night. But we really got a chance to see, at least those board members of us who were there, were able to see 2 high schools and what they're doing around their college and career academies. And we also got to attend sessions around what it would look like when you transform your middle schools. And I thought we were able to take away some really good information around the components that our academies have. And honestly, and I said this while we were there, even to the people from Alignment Nashville, that we're going to have you beat in 2 years. So we are doing some amazing things here in our district, and we're pretty much going to surpass them, I believe, pretty soon. So it was a really good visit, and I'm excited to be able to continue that work there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms.
Yeah,
Archer?
just a little bit more about the Nashville trip. So it was really nice to see a lot of things they were highlighting were things we're already doing here in Akron. So it just really felt good to, everyone was like, Akron's in the house. Also, even though I didn't get to visit the middle schools, when we had our debriefing session, it was really nice to hear and feel the excitement from the teachers who did visit the middle schools. And to me, excited teachers means excited students. So, and the common theme that I just kept hearing were relationships and trust. And I was able to sit in on a fishbowl meeting because each one of their pathways has a team that meets. And I mean, it was just to see the teachers in their element, basically, and taking ownership and having autonomy. It was just a sense of trust. It was really student-centered. And I just am looking forward to, working towards that continued work in our district with that type of culture, empowering our teachers.
Good. Thank you. Ms. McKittrick, did you want to add anything else? All right. Anyone else? All right. I'm going to move my report just up to part of community and school reflections, and went to several events with a few folks and really enjoyed those. But really what I want to just take a brief moment and mention is among the casualties of the recent COVID-19 crisis and all of the cancellations and closures, our Mr. Alexander was to accept an award tomorrow night, the Harold K. Stubbs Award. That event has been canceled But please know that we appreciate you and we honor you, and we look forward, if they reschedule it, to joining and celebrating you, and if not, maybe we'll do it here. So congratulations, and our apologies that that event has been canceled. Just want to make a very brief statement to our board and to the public that as the district prepares to implement the closure that was announced today by Governor DeWine's office, I wanted to take a moment to assure the public that Akron Public Schools has been discussing and preparing for this event since there were initial reports of the outbreak in the United States. And the superintendent will be updating the board and the public as we move forward on our plans and what this will mean for our kids here in Akron. We do ask for patience and understanding as we all work through this together. This is unlike anything that we've seen before or experienced in recent history anyway, and we're all in very new territory. So, but we have a committed and capable staff that care very deeply about our children and want nothing more than to have to make sure that our kids are taken care of both inside and outside of the classroom. As a board, our chief concerns have not just been those that are academic either, but also the challenges that our children and families are going to face as a result of this closing. Chief among them are the safety and well-being of our children while they're home during the closure. So we've had discussions around food security, safety and supervision, our children with special needs, access to online resources, and so much more. And we'll do our best to communicate with the public, with you, and keep all of you updated as we move forward. Many of us are parents ourselves, and we are asking some of the very same questions. We will do our best to share answers with you as and when they are available. But we do ask our parents especially and the public to pay attention to any all calls that you receive, as well as emails, our district website, our social media channels, for updates and information. So thank you for your patience and understanding as we move forward. Anything else for community and school reflections? Hearing none.
I'm sorry. There was
Yes,
one
ma'am.
more thing I failed to mention. I just needed to acknowledge that when we came to the Nashville visit, that was just their second day back to school after a tornado. And you couldn't tell by the way they presented themselves that many of them had homes that were destroyed and some lives were lost. So I just wanted to just send a special shout out and thank you and prayer to that community, because they really welcomed us well despite that major event that they had. So they
That's
did a good
important.
job.
Thank you. All right, we have no recognitions or communications this evening, so we do have one request to address the board. Ms. Lawrence. Good evening. Yes, please, if you could come up to the podium and use the microphone. You have 3 minutes to address the board. The board typically does not respond to you this evening, but we will take your comments under advisement and we'll get back to you with a response. A treasurer will help keep the time, and he'll let you know when your time is coming up. And you can begin whenever you're ready. Thank you.
My name is Tanya R. Lawrence. I'm a citizen of this greater Akron area. I'm also a prophet and a judge. I give honor to all in their prospective places and offices. It grieves my spirit to have to come before this Board of Education of Akron, Ohio today. I am determined and an advocate for children everywhere. The buck stops here. The answer to the preponderance outcry of my babies and your children is right now. I am the people's choice, the heart of God, the mother to all, and a mediator that has arrived. I am an educator, an administrator, a faithful reader of the Akron Beacon Journal, and a Bible scholar, which altogether qualifies me to discern conspiracy of the worst kind here by the good old boys in Akron, Ohio, and to see the misconduct and misappropriation of funds and misdirection of authority and oppressive people of color. You have taken advantage of the people of this great city who entrust their children's education and their hard-earned dollars, which is supposed to guarantee their children a good public education and a piece of the good old apple pie. As residents of the greater city of Akron, Ohio, it is gravely unacceptable for this school district to have the latter grade D, and that John R. Booker Learning Center to carry the grade F as a grade. It's business as usual. And the next thing on the agenda. This means one thing and one thing only. You, the Board of Educators members, represent the people and the people's children's educational opportunities have failed us miserably. There should never be not one learning facility in a public school of Akron with the grade F. You leave me no alternative but to fire one and all board members as well as the superintendent of the great Akron, Ohio. Superintendent Davis Jones with no further notice and no back pay to see how it feels to be function under a system with insufficient funds. This act is ordained by the power invested in me, by the Mayor Dan Horgan, by the Chief of Police Kenneth R. Ball second, by the Director of FBI Christopher A., by the Director of CA Michael Morrell, by the Superintendent of Public Instructions Paulo Demiria, by the President of the State Board Laura Kohler, by the Governor of the State of Ohio Mike DeWine, by the Department of Education Secretary Bessie DeVos, by the 45th President of the United States of America, President Donald Trump, and most of all, by God Almighty. You are the fall guys, and making a public spectacle an example of you, because you offend the little ones, the milestones around your neck. May the chips fall where they may be. I have one last statement coming from the book of Isaiah. I have long time hold my peace. I have been still and refrain myself now, for I cry like a travailing woman. I will destroy and devour I will destroy and devour at once, God Almighty. That's a conclusion of my address.
Thank you so much. We have no other requests to address the board, so at this time I will entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for February 24th, 2020.
So moved. Sorry, so moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any comments, questions, or discussions on the meeting minutes? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Bravo.
Yes. Superintendent's recommendations, personnel.
Mr. President, I wish to recommend approval of the personnel recommendations presented in categories 5 through 16.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the personnel recommendations. Any comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Bravo,
Yes.
Dr. Hall,
Going to abstain with respect to items 5.4, 5.5, and 7.1.
5.4, 5.5, and 7.1. Thank you.
Next, Mr. President, I wish to recommend approval of the resolutions and motions presented in category 21.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda items. Any comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Bravo,
Yes.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
And finally, Mr. President, I wish to recommend approval of the business affairs recommendations presented in category 23.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the business affairs agenda items. Any comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Akbar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Autry,
Yes.
Mr. Bravo,
Yes.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Superintendent's report.
Yes, Mr. President. I'm sure as many of you are aware, the governor, during his daily COVID-19 update, instructed our schools to be closed at the end of the day, Monday through April 3rd, for a period of about 3 weeks. Prior to that, of course, we had sent out notices regarding limiting large events in the district, limiting out-of-district travel of staff and students, also limiting some of our field trips. So those will still be in place because we won't be in session for the next 3 weeks. And I'm awaiting further guidance from the Ohio Department of Education. We were on a phone call with them today discussing some of those issues. So tomorrow we should have some further guidance. The thing for us, we're going to be printing out for our K1 and 2 grades blizzard bag material. So we'll have activities for kids to do while they're home. And then tomorrow, all the Chromebooks that are issued to the balance of our students will also be ready, and they'll go home. Then on Monday, we're going to be working with our nurses to make sure that medications that students have at school is returned to their parents, so that isn't an issue, and just clean up other things before everyone's dismissed and then off for the next 3 weeks.
Thank you. Treasurer's report?
No report.
Can we ask questions or?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Go
That's
ahead,
okay.
please.
Mr. James, do you know right now, and this may still be determined, will there be new assignments on the Chromebooks as we're going forward, or are they going to be given a list of things before they go home, or do we know those things yet?
We'll be giving them a list of things before they go home, and we're working on that tonight and tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Yes.
So with respect to the medications, are those, what process are we following to get those back to the families? Is it being given to the parent, is it given to the child and then take home to the parent? How do we actually?
Our nurses from Akron General are in control of those. They give them directly to the parents, so they'll be reaching out to the parents. Some, it includes insulin and other types of things, so we want to make sure that they follow the procedure and get that to the parent.
Thank you.
Good question. Other questions?
Just one more thing. I know that I talked to Ms. Folk for a while about some of the services that we provide, and I will just say I have been reached out to already today since 2:30 when the announcement went out by, and I'm sure the rest of the board will or has been, by dozens of individuals who want to help, whether it's churches or neighborhoods. So I want to thank everyone, first of all, who's reached out, and know that I will be passing all those on. I'm sure, like I said, everyone's going to hear from somebody. And so I'll pass those on to you, Mr. Superintendent. I know that there are going to be some restrictions and things that we can and can't do that you'll get guidance from ODE on.
Right. We discussed that this afternoon. So 2 items that came up. One was regarding breakfast and lunch, because, all of our students get free breakfast and lunch. And there are some guidelines from USDA on that. I know Mrs. Folk has been in contact with her folks through Laura Kepler and Child Nutrition with ODE. That was a topic of discussion. I think the state's reaching out to the USDA about that. So our internal planning team talked about, maybe doing grab bags or something, but there's some regulations that we want to make sure. I know the governor said we'll do things and answer questions later. We'll see how that's all going to work out. And then the other topic that came up has to do with our special needs, particularly our fragile students who have a lot of different medical needs, and how we can work with our families while kids are out, because we do have a responsibility through federal and state special education rules, to handle those students, because if we don't do it now, we would have to do those over the summer to make up. So there are some things that we have to work through, but I'm hoping to have some guidance from ODE tomorrow.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have another question. I just want to make sure that we should acknowledge anyway that there are folks that we employ that, for example, hourly workers work in the cafeterias, and whatnot, and just want to ensure that ask and ensure that there's a plan in place to ensure that we're taking care of those folks as well. So that's my question. Is there a plan to address those folks? Have you given any consideration or thought to that?
So typically on a calamity day, our folks are paid anyway. So if there are teachers, custodians, each contract is a little different, but there's been long established rules under Ohio Revised Code regarding calamity day. So again, I have to make sure that I'm getting the correct information from the state on, is this really a calamity day, or do they expect staff to show up? Because we would have plenty of work for them to do.
Right.
But, those are some things that, because it came out really quickly, and I haven't got any other correspondence other than the transcript of the news conference. So those are some things that we're working through.
Thank you.
Good question, thank you. And before you jump into your treasurer's report, just again wanted to say, we have fantastic staff sitting around the room who I know have been working around the clock, early and late and through lunches, and really putting in an effort to make sure that our kids are taken care of. So kudos to all of you, and thank you for what you do. And we know that there's a lot to consider with all of this. And also, I wanted to recognize, because I forgot to do so at the beginning, that Reverend Dr. Curtis T. Walker Sr. is in the house this evening, one of our former board members and recently retired. So thank you for being here tonight.
Can I just thank you too, Patrick, because I know I've reached out to you. I'm sure other board members have. I've tried not to bother the superintendent too much, so Patrick's been fielding a lot of questions. So thank you for early calls, late calls.
You're
all
so
those
welcome.
things, too.
It's always my pleasure.
So you say.
And I have been informed there is no treasurer's report, so we're going to move right into committee reports, legal, contracts, and board policy.
Yes, the legal and board policy committee of the Akron Board of Education, we met on March the 2nd, 2020, with the following members present. Diana Autry, Bruce Alexander, Patrick Bravo, Dr. Hall, Dr. James, Valerie McKittrick, Deb Folk, as well as myself. And we reviewed a few items. The first thing we did was we reviewed updates from Neola, which came out in January 2020. And Deb Folk, who was sitting in for Ryan, reviewed the recent updates from Neola and informed the committee of the district staff responsibilities around those updates, as well as preparing them for board consideration. All policies in this update have been shared with staff for that purpose. We also had second readings of policies, which the third readings will be presented to you today on the school safety policy 8400, as well as emergency situations at schools 8420. And following the discussion of the second readings, it was recommended that it be presented for approval at the board today for the third and final reading. And Bruce will go over those readings in a second. And we also had reviewed policy 8500, which is food services, which was submitted, and it was suggested that language be added to that policy, that no student will ever be denied basic lunch based on their inability to pay. As you know, the district has long had that practice, and the board felt like we should actually put that in our policy since we are reviewing it. And that is the report from the meeting besides the readings, which Bruce will do.
All right, thank you. And I just want to comment that we had a very good meeting. The new board members came. It was really good insight. President Bravo came, and Mrs. Falk did a great job of explaining everything to all of us, so I want to thank her as well. I have for our first reading policy, which is a current policy, policy 5460, graduation requirements. a new policy, 5460.02, which is students at risk of not qualifying for high school diploma, and administrative guidelines 5460D, criteria for awarding the graduation seals. And then I'd like to also add for our third and final reading and approval, policies 8400, school safety, and policy 8420, emergency situations at school. And I would move that we receive these as mentioned.
We have a motion then on the two policies. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on policy 8400, school safety, and policy 8420, emergency situations at schools. Are there any comments, question, or discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick?
Yes.
Dr. Akbar?
Yes.
Thank you so much for your work on those. Finance and Capital Management Committee?
So in light of the developments of the last 24 hours, we thought it prudent to cancel our meeting today with respect to Mr. Pennell's schedule. So no report today.
Thank you so much. Instructional policy and student achievement?
I would just note that those in attendance for that IB presentation that we discussed earlier also got to have a presentation on those graduation policies that Mr. Alexander just mentioned. Went pretty well in depth on that, so thanks to all who attended so that we could discuss those. And then we're meeting on St. Patrick's Day is when we're scheduled for our next meeting, so come join us if you'd like.
And wear green.
Yes, and wear green.
All right, we have no unfinished business. We currently have no new business. We do have need for executive session.
Yes.
All right, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G1, for the purpose of considering the discipline of a public employee or official of the school district, Revised Code 121.22G3, to consult with legal counsel, to discuss disputes involving the board and/or the school district that are subject to pending or imminent court action, and Revised Code Section 121.22G6, to discuss security arrangements or emergency response protocols of the district. I'm looking for a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any final comments, questions, or discussion before we do so? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Dr. Hall?
Aye.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick?
Yes.
Dr. Akbar?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Ms. Autry?
Yes.
Thank you.